Because guess what? Nobody grew up with that crap, and nobody's all that interested in it. It's very good for people to learn that women need men, and also that men need women. I don't know why this fell out of fashion, and we're not allowed to just say that sort of stuff anymore, but it actually happens to be the truth.
Rachel Zegler's $200 million showdown with Disney's legal team has erupted across the internet. And honestly, it feels like we're all tuning into the world's most dramatic telenovela, complete with crown jewels and expensive footwear.
These seem to be the only talking points that these two actresses have been given because they are regurgitating them in literally every single interview that they have done.
The actress once hailed as the next big Disney princess is now waltzing into a corporate face-off that's more tangled than Rapunzel's hair. According to the rumor mill, Disney dragged Rachel into an emergency meeting with their top-notch lawyers. Think of it like being summoned to the principal's office. But with a multi-billion-dollar brand on the line, contract violations, potential lawsuits, accusations of tarnishing the magic of Walt Disney's sweet legacy, yep, it's all on the agenda.
Disney CEO Bob Iger, the many executives over there, the board of directors, they are all in panic mode over this movie.
And you thought your last work meeting was stressful? This fiasco centers on a film that was meant to dazzle a brand new Snow White, armed with an enormous budget large enough to buy a small planet or at least a few million cupcakes. Fans initially envisioned something that would breathe new life into the 1937 classic, but the actual result has left everyone blinking in astonishment. Critics pounced the moment it hit theaters, calling it a radical departure from everything the original stood for, and not in a warm, ooh, how refreshing kind of way. Meanwhile, box office receipts have looked about as lively as a glass slipper left in the discount bin. That alone would be enough to send Disney execs into quiet tears. But you add Rachel Zegler's soundbites and tweets on top of that, you get the perfect swirl of corporate heartbreak and social media meltdown.
She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Oh my God.
Nobody
Who
wants
wants
that.
a movie about true love? What kind of woman do we want out there seeking true love, Eliana? The outrage.
For a film that devoured roughly $200 million in production costs, that's so many zeros they start blending together, Disney was banking on one of those. Unstoppable hits that keep the brand's legacy shining. Instead, they got a fiasco. Fans moaned about the missing dwarfs, the missing romance, and the missing old-school Disney glow. It didn't help that Rachel publicly referred to the prince as a stalker, effectively stepping on the toes of anyone who had cherished the original's gently naive love story. Now her comedic jabs are being cited as the match that lit an avalanche of negativity. The meltdown reached code red when she posted a sudden political stance right after a promotional tidbit for the film. Imagine you're a brand manager, carefully curating a tweet with a sugary, "Please come watch our magical movie," only to see the star drop an unexpected mic about global politics in the reply thread. Word on the street is that certain executives nearly fainted. Then the son of a key Snow White producer piped up, chastising Rachel's approach. He basically said, "She's tanking the box office and I'm not thrilled." Cue even more furious speculation. Next thing you know, we're hearing about an emergency meeting.
Just looks horrific. It's so out of place. And when you see them dancing next to Rachel Zegler, who's an actual human actor, it just looks awful. They don't match up. They're deep into the uncanny valley. It is the worst possible choice they could have made. It would have been so much. It would be so much easier if they just used actual dwarf actors. I don't know why they haven't done that.
The phrase alone conjures images of Rachel marching up to some ominous Disney tower, escorted by a small army of lawyers, while bosses stare her down across a mile-long conference table. Naturally, Rachel didn't waltz in unarmed. She reportedly arrived with her own legal cavalry, ready to challenge the suggestion that her interviews had single-handedly torpedoed the film. If sources are to be believed, she's pointing fingers right back at the studio, arguing that they told her to celebrate the Snow White remake as a forward-thinking masterpiece that wasn't afraid to critique old-school norms. And if that was the official directive, she might have a point. Because while her bold statements about updating the fairy tale might have ruffled countless feathers, it's plausible she was following instructions from the get-go. The bigger question is, how did we get to the point where a single actress and a single film can prompt such pandemonium? Well, let's break it down. If you mix a beloved classic known for its sweet innocence with a big pot of modern commentary, you risk some fans shrieking, "You ruined my childhood!" Meanwhile, you might make other fans shout, "Finally, an update for the 21st century."
People have real problems and no one gives a shit if she got paid for 17 instead of 18 on her multi-million-dollar salary, which is not calculated by the hour.
Combine that potential friction with the unstoppable engine of social media drama, and you're basically strapping yourself onto a rocket that may or may not have enough fuel for a safe landing. That rocket crashed even harder when advanced audience buzz suggested the film was struggling to attract the massive crowd Disney needed to recoup its towering budget. Snow White wasn't just failing to reach that golden break-even point, it was limping behind other less hyped releases. The rumor is that execs saw the writing on the wall weeks before the premiere, leading them to panic about how the star's public persona might be scaring away more viewers. Then, Rachel's well-intentioned but divisive comments lit social media ablaze, overshadowing the slick marketing campaigns. Instead of fans talking about how visually stunning the new sets were, or how enchanting the new spin might be, they zeroed in on statements labeling the original movie's romance weird or old-fashioned. There's bold reimagining, and then there's stepping on a beloved storyline, like it's a squeaky toy you can't stand.
Have you ever considered that your fairy tales have actually stood the test of time because they are always relevant, because that is what a fairy tale is?
Of course, the negativity ballooned further once the co-star started publicly backing a polar opposite political stance, turning the promotional circuit into a weird cameo of global conflict. Disney had wanted to keep politics away from a fairy tale brand, but that's a tough ask when your leads start throwing real-world convictions into the limelight. Before long, we had a swirling vortex of anger aimed at everything from the script, to the dwarfs, to the new modern spin, with fans asking, is this even Snow White anymore? The meltdown was unstoppable. What turned this fiasco downright nuclear was the whisper that some powerful suits at Disney were butting heads over the film's direction. One group evidently loved the idea of a super updated Snow White, while another group grumbled that they were messing with an icon. Then, you had Rachel rumored to be caught in the crosshairs of a corporate tug-of-war. She's apparently hinted there was sabotage from the top. Power players who wanted the film to fail to prove a point, or maybe just to watch the world burn.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be,
Oh.
and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Oh my god, it's a really incredible story. You're making this girl boss story based on an important father figure. Her father tells her to be brave and strong. Don't you think that there's something redeeming about men in this story?
Although that might sound like a twist from a particularly campy daytime soap, Hollywood's been known to hatch stranger plots behind closed doors. While fans swap theories, shareholders have begun sweating like marathon runners at high noon. If Snow White flops so spectacularly that it undermines the entire brand, the financial fallout could be enormous. So can you blame Disney for hauling Rachel into a hush-hush meeting to figure out how to salvage the brand's dignity? The mind-blowing part is that it apparently centered on serious legal issues. Was she in breach of a brand-preserving clause in her contract? Did her remarks cross an official boundary by mocking the 1937 classic? Did her going off script about politics break any rules? It's a crash course in how studios can pivot from cheerleader to disciplinarian in the blink of an eye once they smell a fiasco. Rachel's side, though, is pushing back hard, insisting that the real meltdown here stems from the fact Disney peddled a conflicting message. Be bold and modern, yet don't upset the nostalgia crowd. That's like telling someone, dive in, but don't get wet. If the marketing demanded a progressive narrative, Rachel might simply have run with it in interviews. So, whose fault is it if the plan backfired? Did the studio shift gears after seeing how fans reacted, leaving her to take the brunt? Are they scapegoating her because it's easier than saying we messed up on the creative vision from day one? We might not get a definitive answer soon, especially since the emergency meeting suggests that everything's moving behind locked doors.
It's because they have timeless, universal values and lessons that any person, regardless of their age, regardless of their generation, could connect to. That is why they are so important. That is why they have been around for hundreds of years. You didn't start these fairy tales. Grimm's fairy tales, that's where they came from. People love these for a reason, because of the values.
Disney is rumored to be reeling from the negative PR, determined to plug the leaks and keep further drama from gushing out. But the possibility of an official legal clash, like a lawsuit or a demand that Rachel cover damages, hangs in the air. If that happens, the entire fiasco could blow open, with emails and memos possibly seeing the light of day. Imagine the meltdown if documents surfaced showing that Disney literally told Rachel to describe the prince as creepy, or brand the original story as outdated. Talk about a plot twist. Meanwhile, fans remain deeply torn. Some hate how the film skewed so far from the gentle innocence of the original. They scold Rachel for talking down to viewers who grew up cherishing the 1937 movie. Others say, chill out, folks. Society's changed in 80 years. and any reimagining of Snow White was bound to rock the boat.
With the same smugness and pleasure around it, here's another one. Again, just as insufferable as the first.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago. It's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power and what a woman is fit for. Snow White has to learn a lot of lessons about coming into her own power before she can come into power over a kingdom.
Another camp shrugs and blames Disney alone for pumping out too many hollow remakes, claiming the real fiasco is that these films exist at all. Yet all roads lead back to the flick's lead star. She's become the face of a bomb that cost hundreds of millions and yielded a fraction back, painful, but also drenched in comedic irony. The star who was supposed to revolutionize a classic instead found herself in the crosshairs of a brand meltdown. Bob Iger, Disney's big boss, has publicly insisted the company aims to entertain rather than push messages. Contradicting that is the swirl of interviews and rumor-laced talk from inside the production, which suggests they tinkered with classic elements specifically to modernize them. So was the meltdown about underestimating how fiercely fans guard their cherished properties? Or was it about an actress who forgot she was representing Disney's prime legacy and not just starring in an edgy indie flick? Possibly both. Possibly more. Possibly a meltdown that was inevitable once you fuse 1930s nostalgia with 2020's internet culture.
Peter Dinklage said it was backwards to cast real dwarves as dwarves, even though he's made a whole career out of being a real dwarf who's played dwarves in movies and made millions doing it.
Adding a final comedic, or tragic, depending on your viewpoint, twist is the fact that in the throes of the meltdown, Rachel found time to post unexpected personal opinions that had zero link to the film. Cue jaws dropping across the entertainment world as onlookers pictured Disney's PR team collectively shrieking into their coffee cups. The brand was already reeling from the negative press, so random statements outside the promotional script felt like sprinkling ghost chili powder onto a dish already aflame. Ultimately, the star's frank personality, once an asset, quickly turned into a corporate nightmare.
These big bad feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a handsome prince and be swept off of your feet and live happily ever after? No, you should want to be the prince. You should want to go out and fight the bad guys with a sword.
Especially when fans itching for drama seized on every tweet or interview snippet to spin new controversies. Of course, let's not forget the dwarfs fiasco. People lost their minds upon hearing certain changes or a possible shift in how those characters would appear. Was Disney removing them altogether or morphing them into something else? It's a testament to how beloved these original elements are that even a rumor of meddling could incite a small rebellion. By the time the actual movie premiered, frustration was running so high that audiences who might otherwise have given it a chance felt stung. The meltdown also calls into question whether the entire big-budget remake machine is nearing its expiration date. A good chunk of viewers are simply tired of seeing classics rehashed, especially if the rehash feels forced.
Then they got even crazier and they decided that the dwarves in Snow White weren't woke enough, okay?
Rachel Zegler, meanwhile, might be left wondering how it all went so wrong. She soared to early success, only to crash into a fiasco bigger than Cinderella's midnight meltdown. If she gets pegged as the root cause, her career might suffer in the short term. Still, some watchers argue she was set up to fail. If you're going to revamp an 86-year-old fairy tale with modern twists, you better do it carefully and respectfully. And if you send your star out there to champion that angle, you'd better have her back when the pitchforks appear. Instead, it looks like they left her dangling in the wind, then turned around asking, "Why are you letting all these gusts blow us away?" The real question is whether a settlement or hush-hush agreement will end this fiasco quietly. That's what big studios often do, solve their problems in secrecy to avoid more negative press.
This is really a bad movie, and I apologize to Walt Disney himself. I'm sorry.
But the jostling between star and studio has reached such a pitch that it may be too big to keep hidden. If either side decides to break ranks, we could see everything from leaked emails to depositions in the near future. In which case, the meltdown that's currently overshadowing social media could turn into a full-blown legal thriller, with the public munching popcorn from home as both sides fling evidence around. And what about the future of Snow White? Disney may well let the dust settle on the brand, hoping to reintroduce it after the storm blows over. Maybe another reboot in a decade or so, or an embrace of the cartoon classic's original brilliance.
The fact that Disney's budget for Snow White 2025 was well above $350 million altogether when you're factoring in marketing expenses and everything to do with their overall support for Rachel Zegler.
For the moment, the property is overshadowed by the meltdown, tarnished by the sense that it wasn't handled with the delicate care fans expected. If the studio aims to recover from that, they'll need more than just new casting or a second attempt at rewriting the story. They'll need a strategy that repairs the bond with fans who felt alienated, and possibly does so by remembering that sometimes you don't fix what wasn't broken. Where does that leave us? Some cynics are convinced Rachel and Disney will end in a quiet severance of ties, with no official statement beyond polite disclaimers about artistic differences. Others see a scorched earth scenario, where a lawsuit reveals exactly who said what behind closed doors, leaving reputations in tatters. A few optimists think the meltdown could be a lesson for the entire industry, prompting better synergy between classic legacies and modern updates, ensuring the next reimaginings handle beloved tales with more thoughtful nuance. For Rachel Zegler, the conclusion could define her entire Hollywood arc. If she emerges from this meltdown as a fearless voice who only said what her bosses asked her to, she might gain sympathy and even bounce back stronger.
All these studios have to stop letting their actors loose. I mean, honestly, just shut your actors up.
If the meltdown cements the impression she tore down a beloved story with condescension, it's going to be a serious climb back into the good graces of major studios. Either way, she's now a prime example of how quickly the fortunes of a rising star can turn when hundreds of millions and a beloved brand are at stake. Looking back, the meltdown has generated an avalanche of comedic irony. Snow White, revered for its innocence, is now center stage in a storm of negativity, corporate battles, and political divides. The star chosen to champion a new era for Disney's oldest princess stands accused of mocking the very foundation she was hired to modernize. The film itself is overshadowed by squabbles about which dwarfs are missing and which social stance was taken on Twitter, and all of it is swirling in the realm of Hollywood, where illusions are meticulously crafted until they're abruptly torn apart. We can't say for sure how it will all end. Will the disclaimers and legal disclaimers fade quietly? Will the meltdown intensify to the point that every corner of Disney's empire shakes under the weight of negative headlines and disappointed fans? We're in uncharted waters, but that's what makes the meltdown so compelling to watch, or cringe at, or laugh about. Possibly all three at once. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this wild $200 million fiasco pitting Rachel Zegler against the House of Mouse. Did she cross the line? Or did Disney set her up by yanking the classic so far from its fairy tale roots that failure was inevitable? If you had fun reading this, please tap that like button, think of it as your good deed for the day, and be sure to subscribe so you'll catch every new twist and turn in this ongoing saga. And hey, don't rush off just yet. There's another video floating on your screen right now with more outrageous revelations from the world of showbiz, and you won't want to miss it. Click on over, and I'll catch you in the next one.